my beautiful people. So today we're looking at chapter 9, which is step 6 of this social marketing behavioral change for good. And this is crafting the desired positioning. So positioning is not just about what the product is, but about the space it occupies in the mind of the customer. So the positioning it takes up in their mind. Okay. So what is positioning to be exact? Well, we start off with the product. So whether this is a physical product or a service or even an idea, right? Because in social market or in marketing for social change, you're selling an idea to a certain degree or a behavioral change. And it's about finding the right place for it in the marketplace. And so here are the key to be able to do that. Positioning is done to the prospect, which means that not the product itself. So you're not positioning the product itself, you're positioning the prospect. So successful positioning focuses on the prospect, the customer, the perceived, that perceives the product. Okay, so you're not focusing on the product itself, you're focusing on how that person is going to perceive it. If we want to look at tangible goods, you can buy a purse from Ross and you can buy a purse from Louis Vuitton. In essence, they do the same thing. They serve the same purpose. Yeah? Okay? But the way they are perceived is completely different. Make sense? Okay, so the positioning is based on the perception of the customer's perception of the product and or service. The goal here is to influence that person's perception and ensuring that your product stands out in a crowded marketplace. Now, in order to be able to do that, we have to look at positioning strategies. And positioning strategies, essentially, they help achieve this by identifying how to differentiate the product from competitors and create a meaningful connection with the target audience. So it's not enough for your product to exist. It has to occupy a unique and valuable space in your customer's mind. It has to have its own place. So you have to think of positioning as shaping how customers feel about your product, whether they see it as the best solution for their problem, the most cost-effective solution for their problem, or the most innovative option for their problem. So you have to think of positioning as shaping how the customers feels about your product or service, okay? And so you have to look at, how is this solving their questions? So when we say positioning starts with the product, we're actually acknowledging that the product itself is central to the conversation. But what's crucial to understand is that the product on its own does not define its position. You could have the best products in the world, but without a clear position in the market, it is invisible. Okay? So you may have written books and you may have done movies, you may have done whatever, but if no one's watching them, then they're invisible. Okay? So positioning begins by answering a few key questions, which are: what problem does your product solve? How unique, what unique value does it offer? And how does it compare to its alternatives? This is where your understanding of your products or services' key features and benefit comes into play. So what's important, positioning is about distilling this information in a way that resonates with your target audience. It has to connect with their desires, with their needs, and with their perception of how valuable it is. It's not about what you think the product is about, it's about what the customer thinks about it. So the second element of of positioning is done to the prospect, not the product. And this is vital because positioning is not a technical exercise, it's actually a psychological one. So all of it within marketing, the majority of things are a psychological exercise. So it's about crafting a narrative that influences how the customer perceives your product. Your product doesn't live in isolation. It lives in a marketplace filled with competitive messaging, options, and noises. So the challenge of positioning it breaks through the noise and makes it very distinct. What are the things that allow you to tell that story in a distinct and compelling way that impresses your target audience? You want to think of positioning as almost this mental real estate that your product or service occupies in the customer's mind, okay? So it lives there, you have it leased, okay? When you think of Tesla, what are the things that you think of? Self-driving, what else? Expensive, maybe a little bit more on the luxury side, even though, Chevy creates electric cars as well. But for some reason, the mental real estate that exists with Tesla is luxury, right? These are all things that they're not necessarily about car features, okay? They're about the emotional connection and the brand narrative and how you perceive it, okay? And that's all about position. That's the mental real estate that your product or service is. That would be the product of the mental real estate that Tesla owns. So it's not about what you say, it's about how you say it and when you say it. You need to understand that the prospect's pain points, desires, and existing perceptions. And this is why market research is so crucial. So you can't position effectively without first knowing your audience intimately, okay? So how do we go about positioning our product or service? What do we do? So this is all good, but how do we actually bring this to fruition? That would be what we call positioning strategies. So there are several core strategies that we can employ depending on what we want to achieve and how we want to be perceived. First and foremost, you're looking at positioning based on attributes. So this is when you focus on specific feature or attributes of the product. So you want to think of Volvo, you think of safety. When you think of Volvo, safety immediately comes to mind because they've been relentless in making sure that people relate it to a safe car, okay? You want a safe car for your kids, you get a Volvo, yeah? And so they focused on attribute, and that attribute that they wanted to focus on is safety. Now, the goal here is to own a specific feature in the mind of the customer. When you think of a luxury watch, what do you think of? Rolex. Anyone else thought of a Rolex? Because that is the attribute they chose to focus on. And that's where they got that mental real estate. You can do positioning based on benefits. And so this approach highlights the specific benefits the customer will get as a result of the product. So for example, if you position a skincare product as anti-aging, then you're focusing on the benefit that matters the most to your customers, which is usefulness. So not just scientific information about the product, but just that this is an anti-aging product, right? This is the benefit that you will get is that you won't age as quickly as you would. Like your features would not age as quickly as your age is progressed. Okay, so that would be positioned by benefit. Then you have positioned by use or application. So some products are positioned based on how or when they are used. So Gatorade, for instance, is not just a drink. This is not something you go about drinking in your day-to-day life. You use it when you need energy and when you need hydration, right? So that would be positioning based on application or use. And then the last one we're going to look at is positioning by users. So you're focusing on a specific group. So Apple does this by positioning their product for creative professionals, tech enthusiasts, and early adopters. If you are one of these, then the iPhone is not just an iPhone, it is positioned as the ultimate tool for creative, tech-savvy individuals who want a cutting-edge design and functionality. Okay? No features that are hindering your creativity. Whereas a Samsung, you have to go through a lot of different features, there's a lot of different add-ons, so the creative process is not as smooth flowing. Does that make sense? So we've already talked about that perceptual map or that perceptual real estate that your product has. And so positioning is not a standalone concept. It has to have what we call the almost like a marketing mix, okay? So you're looking at product, at price, at place, and so forth, right? And then you have the position. So these three elements, the price, the product, the price, and the place, they are the foundation of upon which positioning is built. And so when we talk about the product, you have that's the tangible or intangible things that you are offering. It could be a service, it could be an idea, it could be whatever it is, but that's what you're offering and that's what you're selling. You can position your brand as your product as a high-end product and must live up to that expectation in terms of quality, features, and designs. For example, luxury brands like Louis Vuitton position themselves through craftsmanship and exclusivity of their product. Price is a powerful signal to the audience. So it's not just about affordability, and that's something very key. Your price is not just about affordability, it is about the value proposition. So are you positioning as a budget-friendly option like Walmart, or are you positioning your product in a premium category like Rolex? Rolex tells time just as any ordinary watch from Walmart tells time. Yeah, that's the functionality of it. But where they decided to go is on the higher end of the spectrum. So that means that the quality has to be different. The what they've invested into it has to be different. And even though you may get, so talking about Louis Vuitton purses, for example, you can get a very nice, well-crafted leather bag for $200, which is probably less than the cost, more than the cost that it would cost them to actually make that bag. And it would still be at the same value, but what you're buying when you're buying a Louis Vuitton bag is how it makes you feel about it. Does that make sense? And so that's part of the positioning. So even though they can make it affordable and they can sell you that purse for $500, they decided that no, it's not about affordability. We're gonna mark it up $3,500 because that's where we want to be. Because people perceive it as a more important thing because it's more expensive. That's how we get that luxury. Not everyone could afford it. Only the elite could afford it. Does that make sense? Okay. And then finally, the place is where you offer your products also affects positioning. So this refers not only to physical location, but channels of distribution. So are you available in upscale retailers, or are you positioned as an e-commerce only brand where customers find exclusive dealerships while customer electronics are positioned differently? Ignore that part. But nevertheless, so basically, if you go into, my gosh, Milan in Italy. Have you anyone been to Milan? Okay. So if you go into Milan, there's that one place right under the dome. What kind of brands are there? all the big stuff, right? All the big stuff, all the big names. Is Target there? No, right? Do you find Louis Vuitton at Target? Do you find Louis Vuitton at Ontario Mills? No. But you can find Coach at Ontario Mills. You can find, Kate Spade at Ontario Mills, Michael Kors at Ontario Mills, right? So that would be a distribution channel where you choose to locate it as compared to its competitors. So Milan is known as the fashion capital of the world, right? Along with Paris, it's one of those places where it's high end, it's beautiful. This is where the ultra rich go and shop for their incredible products, right? Whereas Ontario Mills, for example, would probably be for the middle class, and it ranges from lower middle to upper middle. Does that make sense? So that would be the place. Are you choosing to have your, so if they put a Louis Vuitton, is that at Ontario Mills, would that be the right place? No. If you were to find Coach in Milan, it would be different products than the ones that are sold in local Coach store, right? It's the high-end products, the ones that are like more expensive to fit where we're at. I think this was supposed to be here. Sorry, I had it on the wrong slide. All right, so the perceptual map is essentially a visual tool that helps marketers understand how the product, brand, or service is perceived in relations to others in the same market. And it's essentially the plot different products or brand based on two or more attributes, which could be anything from price, quality, and to innovation and style. So let me show you guys. Okay, so the way in which they're perceived based on quality and price. So higher quality, higher price, and so forth. Okay. Let me get a better one. So you can kind of see almost like a visual of where these brands are located on that map. Cool? Makes sense? For different kinds of products. All right, so choosing the right audience or choosing a priority audience is actually a very important step. So those customers or clients that you want to reach the most, that is your priority audience. That is your top selection. So there's an additional level of refinement and needs that you're looking for. So you're choosing the specific audience within that broader group. So you may be targeting a particular group, but within that group, there is a target audience that you are focusing on. Okay. So there's something called an intervention mix, which is your set of actions and strategies aimed at influencing your your target audience. And that is important for the fact that it helps audience refinement. So after identifying your priority audience, you need to further segment and choose specific subgroups within that audience. Not all individuals within the priority audience will respond to the same message in the same way. So refining your audience selection allows you to tailor your messaging and positioning to make it more personal and more impactful. And then the next thing is understanding your audience's need. So before diving into developing your intervention mix, again, how you are going to engage your audience, that's what an intervention mix, whether it's through promotion, pricing, product adjustment, and so forth, you need a deeper understanding of who this refined audience is. And that would be, you can get there by gathering data points from pain points, from motivators, from behaviors and preferences. So let's say your priority audience is mothers or working mothers. That's the overarching group. Well, that is a very big audience. That is a very, very big target market. And not every mother, not every working mother is going to respond the same way to the same message. There are certain things like demographic, there are certain things like where they are working from that also determines what they are choosing. So choosing an audience might involve narrowing this down to mothers who work from home or mothers who prioritize sustainability. Each subgroup has a unique value, pain point, and expectations that would need from the target audience. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, from the messaging that you are going to create. So the idea is this, right? This is a cup and you're selling this cup. And you can sell this cup to multiple people, yes? There are different types of people who will buy this cup. But what and how they will use it, or, well, you fill it up, right? But how they're using it, what they're using it for, and what's the purpose in buying it differs for different people. So for example, for me, a lot of times the cups was bigger. I have an electric car that has very tiny cup holders, okay? So for me to get a cup that actually fits, it has to be very narrow on the bottom. So that was, for me, something important in buying this product. Does that make sense? So for the next person, it may be that this is just one large cup and that they need this amount of coffee per day. Does that make sense? Yeah? So the messaging that you would use to get me to buy this product is not, hey, you can use this for your coffee. It's, hey, you could use this for your car or when driving. Does that make sense? Yeah? So then when you are creating this bigger category, when you have that bigger category of girls who will buy this fancy looking cup, right? Then you would divide it into why are these people buying it, and then you would redefine your message based on what they need so that you're able to speak to them. Cool? Yeah? All right, y'all are dead. Look alive, people, look alive. A little more alive. Tiny bit. Okay, okay. I see a little more liveliness in this place. All right. So in a dynamic market, repositioning becomes essential when brand needs to adapt to changing environment or audience needs. So repositioning refers to adjusting your brand's position in response to competitive pressures, market trends, or evolving consumer preferences. And so companies might reposition for several reasons. One, new competitors. So when new players enter the market. Two, changing customer needs as customer desires and values shift over time. Brands may need to adjust their messaging. Innovation or technology, so sometimes changes in technology causes things to reposition. So what's called Netflix started by Redbox, right? Do you guys remember Redbox? Okay, where you would go to like Walmart and rent out a DVD, and then technology came around. They're like, oh, well, we're gonna do streaming instead. That caused them to reposition. Market expansion. As companies look to expand new markets, they might need to reposition to resonate with different cultures and demographic groups. How many of you guys know what Fabletics is? Okay, what's Fabletics? What do they do? What do they sell? athleisure, right? They essentially sell workout clothes or pretty looking workout clothes, right? What do they sell now? In addition to their workout clothes, anybody know? They've expanded now into scrubs. Good looking, comfortable scrubs that doctors and nurses can go into work with. Okay, so that would be a market repositioning and a market expansion. So because they thought, okay, well, we're creating beautiful clothing that is comfortable. Who else needs to feel and look good? Well, doctors need to feel and look good. And they also need it to be very comfortable throughout the entire day. Yeah? And so they are now selling scrubs as part of their ideas. Okay? So that was their market expansion. So repositioning allows a brand to refresh its identity and to reconnect with customers in a new way. So for example, Old Spice underwent a major repositioning from being a brand for older men to one that appeals to younger generations through humor and bold advertising. You guys remember the Old Spice commercial? Has anyone seen it? I'll show you guys. So they use humor as a okay, for if anyone's watching this after, I will add the link. So we saw two commercials, one with the Old Spice questions and the second one with the Terry Crews Old Spice. The first one, who was it talking to? Who are they talking to? The woman, right? They're talking to the woman who, and why would Old Spice, a men's cologne or a men's line, talk to women? What happens if your partner smells, you don't like the perfume he's wearing? What do you do? No, right? No, stay away from me. Okay, yeah, I don't want to be there, right? And so for women, a lot of times men would change their cologne based on the preferences of the women that they're with. And so they realized that a lot of the people who are actually buying and going grocery shopping and getting the stuff for their men, getting the groceries for their men, getting the household items for their men are women. And so what did they do? They played on they played on humor, they repositioned their brand. They're telling the young woman or, oh, hey, by the way, your husband or your boyfriend, he can't look like me, right? But he can smell like me. And that was something that they're using in a way that and so that would be a subcategory in their priority audience, right? They're trying to get the person who goes into the shop and buys these products, these household items to buy that, and that would be the woman. Now, in the second one, who was it talking to? The second commercial, who are they talking to? Think it through. What was Terry doing? What is it? How do you there? Doing what? Shaving. Women, do you shave your face? No. Who is the commercial directed at? Men. Okay. So that would be the other category of people that they are talking to. What is the representation of Terry Crews in people's minds? For women, he is good looking, right? He's a strong masculine figure. And for men, he is this man who is muscular, and that's something that the majority of men aspire to be, like this strong dude, right? So he embodies this masculinity. So they position their brand in a way that redefined it, right? So they repositioned their branding from my grandfather has Old Spice cologne, right? Or uses Old Spice to, hey, young women, your man can't look like me, but he can certainly smell like me. And for men, they're like, hey, this is a new product for you. We've designed it for you as you went to the amusement park, as you did this, as you did that. And so this is how they were able to change the real estate and in what existed in people's minds and change it into what actually is what it is that they want to focus on. Okay, so they focused on repositioning. They focus also on the unique attributes or benefits that set their brand apart from the competitors. So these are characteristics that consumers associate specifically with your brand that create differentiation. So points of difference that that they have, and they come from several areas. The first is the product features, and these are tangible features that is better or different than competitors offer. So for example, you have Apple's seamless integration of hardware, software, ecosystem that played a major point of difference in technology space. So one of the cool things about Apple that I don't know if they have in Windows and Android is that if you copy something on your phone, if you have an iPhone, right? If you copy something on your phone, you can paste it on your laptop. And so that is an ecosystem that exists together. You can respond to your messages, you can do so many things from your laptop rather than from your phone because they're seemingly interconnected based on the ecosystem that they built. So for someone who has a MacBook Pro, it's usually, it makes you feel better as part of the ecosystem to buy the other products that are relevant to it as well, okay? If you have an iPhone, you typically don't have a Samsung smartwatch. Part of the reason is that they don't integrate seamlessly, right? You can't take calls on your smartwatch if it's a Samsung watch and you have an Apple product. Whereas if you have a Samsung phone and a Samsung watch, they speak to each other, and that's the ecosystem that creates, and that's the point of difference. Yeah? How we feeling? Good? All right. So they're looking at product features, they're looking at customer experience, they're looking at emotional connection. So some brands differentiate through the emotional bond they create with their customer. Dove's Real Beauty campaign is an example of brands that stand out, not because of its product features, but because of the emotional resonance of its messaging. So we're going to take a look at that as well. And this is something, right? We'll take a look at the first one and then we'll take a look at this one. So you guys can see how they've created this brand throughout. We just saw this first, right? The #1 Dove campaign for Real Beauty. What do you guys think? What are some of the things that stood out to you? What happened in this version? Anyone tell me? No.
I'll show the boy. Like the beauty that they look at some ads, like an illusion.
Right? The beauty that they look at on ads is an illusion. What else? What else do you guys think? What happened in the story? Can someone tell me the plot? Narrate the story, guys. She walks into the studio and then what happens? She walks into the studio looking like a supermodel? No. What does she walk into looking in the studio looking like? Barefaced, regular girl, your average Jill, right? What happens then?
They start fine makeup and changing hair.
Okay, they apply makeup, they change their style, they're done with the photo shoot. What happens after? Gets photoshopped. And then what happens? It gets where? It goes where? On a billboard, in the public eye, where people look at that person and say, wow, that is beautiful. And what do we say? That's real beauty, right? She's so beautiful, that's real beauty. But what are they showing us? The truth. The truth is, people don't necessarily look like it. They go through a process, and they don't just go, we can look at the makeup and say she's naturally beautiful, and she is, right? Even without the makeup, she was beautiful. But then you look more into it and they're like, oh, well, maybe, and they end the commercial saying, no wonder our perception of beauty is not real. Because it's not real. Because it's Photoshop. Because it's not how people look like. And in order for people to look like that nowadays, what do? So they take that perceived beauty and then what they do? Injections, right? Enhancement surgery, things like that, yeah? To fit an ideal that doesn't really exist. So what is Dove trying to do here? What's their message? What's their message to women? Think it through. What is it saying to you? There's quite a few young women in the class. What does that commercial say to you? On a personal level, it doesn't have to be right or wrong. On a personal level, what does it speak to you? Speak volume, right? Clearly. Girlies, what does it mean? Does it change how you perceive yourself? Right? So what Dove is trying to do here is deconstruct this idea of beauty for women, saying that you are beautiful. That natural beauty, right? Campaign for real beauty that's in the title of this. It's a campaign for real beauty, and real beauty is within you. And so what Dove went and did is that emotional connection that they're creating. They created an emotional connection between you and that product. And that when you use Dove, you're using something that would make you real beauty, that will highlight your real beauty. You're not using it that would be photoshopped or fake. Yeah? So they used an emotional perception. And it worked out so well for them that they continued. So this is, I don't know when this one was made, but then Dove continued and then they did something else. So here's what we're gonna watch this one. I'm gonna pause the recording, the video recording. If you're there, if anyone's watching this later on, you just go back and type that video. All right, my friends, what happened in this one? What happened in this commercial? What is the messaging?
Just showed right underneath them, you see everything like on the street.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Regular women, were they beautiful? They were beautiful, right? It showcased real beauty. What about the first person they showed? What was the word that they had on the screen? Why do we search the universe for a one type of beauty? What is that in response to? What competition do you think of? Pageants, Miss Universe. So if I were to release this ad, I would release it around the time of Miss Universe, right? Where everyone's talking about Miss Universe and how beautiful she is and all that stuff. And I would say, hey, by the way, I'm associated with the regular beauty. For the rest of you girls who are authentically beautiful, my brand is for you. My brand is not for the 1% that looks like Miss Universe. My brand is for the girl with the purple hair, for the girl with the curly hair, right? I was just the same, my hair is very curly, right? For years when I was younger, they would say, oh, look, no, you look nicer when you straighten your hair, you look more refined. And that has some truth into it, right? But then you learn like, oh no, well, this is actually beautiful too. And that's part of that emotional campaign that they're trying to create, and part of the representation that they're using in this emotional landscape that is changing in terms of audience preferences as well, right? And so the cultural preference is shifting from this ideal to include other races and other people and other type of looks as well, right? And so that's where our standard of beauty is there, and that's what Dove is using. They're repositioning their brand to tell everybody, and they continued with that brand positioning from the early campaign until now, where it is truly something beautiful and it's truly something profound because they're resonating with their audience on an emotional level. And then they're not talking about the features. Did you see a soap anywhere? Did you see lotion? So they're not focusing on the feature of the product. They're not focusing on what it is that they are using or other different ways to identify. So what did we say? We scroll back. So they're not looking at attributes, they're not looking at benefits, right? If you use Dove, you're gonna look younger, that's not what they're using. They're not positioning by use or application. So how and when they're used, they're not using that. They're not using it by users, well, to a certain, they're not saying, oh, well, only girls who are competing for pageants are going to use this. They're not positioning by competitors, so they're not saying, oh, this is a Dove and this is whatever other brand. They're not comparing that. They are not using by quality or price. They are using it with emotions. They're positioning it based on connecting through emotions. Cool? Yeah? Questions? Do you feel like this brings it into fruition, connecting the dots? Awesome. All right, my friends, that is it for today. If you have any questions, please let me know. And I'll see you guys on Thursday.